Hi, thanks for watching my video about how to do a volcano in a glass. I just wanted to debrief it with you a little bit because there's often some debate in the Waldorf world about when it is pedagogically appropriate to introduce children to science. And I am a strong believer that children must be immersed in science from their very, very earliest days when they start exploring. Um, so what does that look like? So I just want to break down, hopefully you've watched that volcano in a glass video first. I just want to break that down. So what it really looks like is following the child's lead. Children by and large are going to let you know what they have the capacity to understand. And in the video that you watched, you're seeing my nephew, he loves volcanoes. And the reason that he loves volcanoes is, he knows the words lava. He even knows the words magma from some of the books he's gotten. And he loves reading those books. He loves the pictures. They're fiery, they're awesome. But the real reason he loves volcanoes is because he got a book from my parents that was a sweet, sweet little story about a volcano exploding. And then he heard a song that was a very, very sweet story about a volcano exploding and being lonely, and another volcano then exploding and becoming his companion, creating new land. And so he likes to go around saying, I love you. So for him, that's his interest in volcanoes. Nevertheless, here we are in pandemic, looking for things to do to interest and educate children at home. And I'm lucky to have my nephew as part of my quarantine pod, so I had the privilege of doing that. So he loves volcanoes. So let's break down, excuse me while I look at my notes, let's break down what that video looked like. I did not explain to him that water and oil are not going to mix because of their molecular structures. I did not talk about carbon bonding. Single bonds, double bonds. I didn't talk about that at all. He's not yet curious about those things. He just likes stories best. So to him, I just announced, right before that video, I said, I'm gonna make a volcano in a glass. Would you like to watch? And he did. So he came over and he sat down and he brought his little tray of really healthy goldfish cracker snacks. And in his favorite bowl, which happens to be a plastic bowl with a snowman on it from Christmas many years ago. And he sat down in his spot. And he joined in. So as he joined in, I just explained the process. I named the materials that we used. I prompted him to do it along with me, the naming, the talking about. And then as we observed, I chatted about what we saw. And I prompted him to begin to name just the phenomena, what was observable. So as best we could, I followed his lead and I built on what he saw. And every time I tried to add just one new piece of information, maybe one new descriptive vocabulary term, one more thing I was observing. So for him, all of this just needed to be in the realm of what was observable. What did it look like? He's 4 years old. What did it look like? So I wanted to talk for a minute though about my eldest, very, very different type of child, who also went all the way through the Waldorf program from preschool to actually 8th grade. He went to a science and math magnet high school. So he's now 19 years old and he's an engineering student at Worcester Polytech in Massachusetts, and he's there on an academic scholarship. He was curious on some really pretty technical stuff when he was 4 years old. And I was struggling with, well, he's not supposed to be wondering about that. I'm supposed to be explaining to him, oh, well, the sun gets tired and the sun goes to rest and the moon comes and the night comes and they cover the sun and the earth with a soft night blanket. He was like, that is not what's happening. So his mind could grasp that earlier. So what we did was I answered his questions when I knew. And when I didn't know, sometimes I just sort of tried to lean into the wonder with him. Wow, I wonder. That's really interesting. I wonder why there's a rainbow in the puddle in the street. I wonder. And when that wasn't enough, then we pulled out our book resources. We didn't use internet. It was luckily not that widely available yet. But we pulled out our book resources and we looked. And we looked for answers. And sometimes just engaging in the process was enough to satisfy him. But I never gave him something that he couldn't understand and grasp. I let him do the leading. Like, do you want to know? He wanted desperately to know why things floated. So we found it out. We talked about density. He understood it. So on the other hand, this is a child who didn't speak until he was over 2 years old, and he didn't read until he was in 4th grade, which even for a Waldorf student is alarmingly late. He did go to RSP for support from 4th through 7th grades, and then he was able to exit the program. On the other hand, he's never going to be able to spell well. Just yesterday, he asked me that if he wrote green apples on the grocery list, if I would understand that he meant Granny Smith, because green was much easier to spell. And so that's just to say that all of our babies, all of our children, all of our students, they develop differently. And it's really, really beautiful. And I just wanted to share, since I'm missing being in person with all of you so much, I just wanted to share with you a little science video that you could do with a child of any age, and how you might engage in the wonder of it with a very young child without overwhelming their mind's capacity to understand what they're looking at. So I hope you enjoyed the video, Volcano in a Glass.